All right, this is Zippy here for Tokyo Tower. It's day one of AWA. Get the great pleasure to speak to the lovely Caitlin Glass, and just happy to have you here. And thank you very much for doing this. And just kind of letting the guests kind of introduce themselves. And so just kind of tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right. Well, my name, as you mentioned, is Caitlin Glass. I'm a voice actress and ADR director for Funimation Entertainment. I got my start in 2004, and most people know me as Winry from Full Metal Alchemist. That aired on Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. Also, Haruhi Fujioka in Ouran High School Host Club, Triella in Gunslinger Girl, Yakumo in School Rumble, Kyono in Spiral. So I've been doing this for about 6 years now.
And how exactly, not just anime voice acting, but how did you get your start in acting in general?
Acting in general, wow. I think I was probably in my first play in maybe the first or second grade, some sort of school play or another. I know in the 5th grade, we did a production of Snow White, and I auditioned for that, and I played Snow White. So that's probably when I really got bit by the acting bug, as they say. And throughout junior high, my school didn't have any kind of theater program, so that's just the local community theater. And then in high school, I really got involved heavily in drama. And when it came time for college, most people have trouble deciding what their major is going to be. But what I loved most was acting, so there really was no question that that's what I would study. And I got the job at Funimation about a semester before I graduated from college.
Oh, well, that's pretty nice, and definitely some early aspirations. I know, yeah, like you said, a lot of people don't quite have that on, and the school plays don't affect everybody, I guess.
Yeah, right.
But that's cool. And so, do you do primarily like theater acting and voice acting then?
I used to do a lot of theater. Obviously, when I was in college, I did. That's what we did. My degree's in theater. But since I've started directing at Funimation, it's a lot more time-consuming, so there isn't a lot of time for theater. I actually haven't been in a real play in about 2 years, unfortunately. I did a little traveling children's theater production, but we would, maybe perform 9 or 10 times a year throughout the year. So a real play, it's been a while. So primarily now, I just do voice acting.
But I know for a lot of voice actors, theater is a pretty key introduction, but, I mean, you may have even gone to college with some of these other voice actors with you. Is that, like, the primary method that people seem to find voice acting?
It's just the primary method, I think, that most people find whatever field of acting they end up working in. Because if you decide you want to be an actor, acting began on the stage, so you go to school and study acting, and it's usually the theater. And then from there, depending on what school you're at, they may have a program for on-screen stuff or camera things. Or you can, I guess, go to a school that's not specifies, in film acting, but you'll get a more thorough depth of knowledge from, I think, a university where you learn stage acting. So a lot of us, most voice actors I know, do have stage acting background. They may come to voice acting, though, through film, radio, TV, film, because their agents will get them auditions at, Funimation or AWA or wherever in Los Angeles, and that's how they stumble into voice acting.
For you, was it just like somebody you knew kind of through college that found it, or did you just respond to like a Funimation bulletin?
I got the job because of someone that I knew, someone from church who is the head of engineering there at Funimation, sound engineer. So at the time he was just an engineer. He'd been working there for a few months, and he knew that I was an anime fan, so he invited me up to the studio and took me on a tour, and that's how I met a director and kind of had an on-the-spot, impromptu audition, and then I was hired that day.
So you were a fan of anime before you became a voice actor?
Yeah.
How did that really kind of affect it once you realized that you're going to be watching yourself?
Well, I hadn't been, when I say a huge fan, I mean, I love it. I guess I hadn't been a fan for very long, is what I should say. I was very busy in theater in school, and theater used to be my hobby, and then it became like my life, and I didn't have a hobby anymore. So I decided I need one. And I was just in some store, and I saw like a new type magazine, and I went, anime, I used to watch that, because I did. I used to watch Sailor Moon and like whatever used to be on Toonami when I was in high school. So I picked up that magazine, started looking through it, going, what should I watch? And went down to like the local Blockbuster, which happened to actually have a lot of anime, and rented like Evangelion and all kinds of whatever looked interesting. So it had been and I'd watch whatever was on TV, which at the time was like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and Blue Gender and like Furikuri and all kinds of things. So I'd watch all that stuff, and so I was into it, but I didn't like know every single voice actor's name. I knew a few, and I guess it didn't affect me the same way as it probably has some other newer voice actors and actresses that I know who were very hardcore fans, like, you know, going to conventions all the time and cosplaying. I think all that's great, but I just hadn't gotten that far in my fandom yet before I got the gig, so...
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of just naturally merged into that. Yeah, from the other side, obviously, voicing characters. And what would you say, like, was there a point when you kind of realized, like, did you know that's what you were going to do for as long as you've done it? Or did you have, like, higher aspirations, film or otherwise?
Oh, you know, when I got the job, like I said, I was about to graduate from college. I actually thought my life was going to take a very different turn. Someone I was seeing at the time, I thought I was going to be with them for the rest of my life and all of these very dramatic things. I thought I knew that I'd wanted to go to graduate school in the UK, and I also wanted to take a year off before I did that, so I was going to go like teach English in Japan or something, because my love for Japan and anime was going to take me there. And then after that I would go to the UK and study like the classics. I really wanted to study Shakespeare. And then the job at Funimation, I had this impromptu audition and I get hired, but I was just doing bit parts. You know, they cast me as, you know, so-and-so in Case Closed, and for months and months, that's basically what it was. I'd come in every few weeks to be some background voices or this little girl, you know, so a couple hours of work a month was by no means a career. So at the time, leaving was like, okay, cool, Funimation was cool, I'm still going to go study Shakespeare and whatnot. But then I got the role of Hiono in Spiral the summer after I graduated from college, and she was the lead, and that's when things really started to take off, because then from there came Full Metal Alchemist, and I was going to be waiting around for this guy who was still in school anyway, so I'm like, well, forget Japan, I guess I'll just stay here and keep doing this anime thing, and it really just exploded, and then the guy was no more, and that's totally fine, and I'm still doing it 6 years later. I don't regret like not going to England or anything. I think that I don't know, I just really believe that I'm doing what God wants me to be doing. To be perfectly honest, I've been given so many opportunities since becoming a voice actress. It's been really amazing. And, you know, there are times when it got really busy around there, and you've got so many roles all at once, and plus, you know, the rest of my life outside of the studio, that there isn't time for stage acting and there isn't time for other things, and I feel like all of my acting eggs are in the anime basket only. And I definitely should branch out and do other things. Like, see, I got the job right out of college. I never got an agent or anything like that because I had work and I'd found it all on my own. So I would really like to branch out some more into more commercial and radio, TV, and all kinds of other acting now that I've been doing voice acting for so long.
Well, that's definitely rather fortunate that you were able to get out of college and go right into voice acting. What's your interest, I guess, in having become kind of the ADR directing now? Was that kind of just purposeful, as in you wanted to kind of step up with this new role, or something that just over time you're like, well, I can do that?
I'd only been at the company for about a year and a half, and like I mentioned, excuse me, before, unless you're cast in some big role, you just get called in every once in a while for a few hours here, a few hours there. And I was looking for a way to be more involved with the company when I wasn't playing some large part in the show, because even those only last 13 or 26 or 50 some odd episodes, and then the character is done. So what are you going to do? And I thought, I directed in college, directed some theater in college, and I thought, I wonder if I could do that. So I just had to ask. I asked around, what do I do? Do you think I could do it? And just go talk to this person and see what they say. And I had to train for a while, and that's really how it started. I love anime, I love the company, I like my job, I like all the people there at Funimation, and just wanted to play a greater role in it all. So that's how that began.
That's pretty neat. It's kind of, I guess, just backtracking a little bit, and then we'll go to directing again. What have been some of the favorite roles that you've been able to have just in anime?
Definitely the big ones. I really love Winry in Full Metal Alchemist. I especially love Haruhi in Ouran High School Host Club that I also directed. There are a lot of them that are so fun. It's such a fun job to begin with. And when you are enjoying your job, it makes it difficult to choose between all these characters that you've played, which one do you like the best. And I could go through the whole list and tell you what was so fun about each and every one of them. But it's the bigger characters on the longer shows, you have more time, you spend more time with them, become more attached to them. So naturally, Full Metal Alchemist, long show, Ouran High School, 26 episodes, but she's the key figure in that one. Yakumo and School Rumble, that's a 50-some-odd episode series, so I spent a lot of time with her. And they all are very dear to my heart.
Do you kind of get the feeling that with your characters, there's these, popularity surges? Because obviously Full Metal Alchemist was on Cartoon Network, so that's going to be a big role, or that was a big role for you. But even with Ouran High School Host Club, it's not on TV right now, but it's huge. So how do you do you notice that when you just go to cons, or do they start paying you better?
No, the rate is just a flat rate across the board. Unfortunately, we don't get paid more for being in the show that's on TV. But yeah, it is great to be a part of the shows that are really big, that fans are really into. It's just nice because you usually hear more about it. What's difficult about being a voice actor, you don't have the immediate payback response that you get from being on the stage. You tell a joke or you have some heartfelt moment, and immediately you feel how the audience is reacting to you. When you're voice acting, you have a director and an engineer in the same room with you, and that's all. And you're in a soundproof booth, so if they have some kind of reaction, you don't even know what it is. That's what's great about coming to conventions. It takes a while, because, man, we produce those shows months ahead of time. But when you come to the cons, you get to meet the people who actually watched it and go, oh, okay, good, they liked it. Good, they liked it. And yes, the response is naturally greater if it's something that has been on TV. So,
have you gotten a lot of chance to sit in with some of the viewings, or maybe even with the Full Metal Alchemist movie in theaters, and just kind of slip in, or purposefully be announced and just kind of see their reactions?
I did for I think when Ouran first came out, which is the end of last year, October 28th or so. I was at a convention, and I did sneak into their viewing room where they were showing it, just to sit in the back, and it was such a relief, because I've loved that show since I first saw it sometime in 2006, and it was a dream to work on it, a dream to direct it and be in it. But there's always this fear that, especially with a show like that, where it has such a huge fan following to begin with, that the fans aren't going to like it. And what if it's not funny? What if I thought it was funny and they don't? So it was great to sit in the back of the room and hear everybody laugh at the jokes. Go, okay, we did it right. You mentioned going to the theaters to see the movies. Yeah, I think I went and saw Full Metal in the theater twice in two different locations, and that was awesome. Very awesome. The first place I saw it was at Otakon, actually. A lot of us were there. I think Troy Baker was there, and Vic Mignogna, and a large portion of the cast, and both directors and everything. And in a room, Otakon has 30,000 guests, attendees. A room with probably 3,000 or 4,000 people. So way more than a movie theater. And just watching everybody squeal when their favorite character would come on screen and clap during the credits. What a trip that was. And then when it actually came out to a real movie theater, it was fun. A bunch of us went out in a group, and Funimation was there. We stayed afterwards and signed autographs and stuff. It was great.
Do you ever bet on which one's going to get more squeals? It's like, one for Winry.
You don't really have to bet. You pretty much know everybody loves Ed. It's all about Ed and Roy in that show.
Well, and that's maybe one of the nice things about Haruhi is, like you said, you're kind of front and center, and while you're not the male character of the group.
Exactly. So people, there isn't too much squealing for Haruhi. It's not like she's Tamaki or Hikaru or Kyoya or anything.
Now, what do you think when you go to a convention and you see all the fans kind of cosplaying from the shows?
I think it's so much fun. I love it. I've actually cosplayed as Haruhi before at a convention last year for Halloween. So I think it's great. What a fun way to just get in on the fun. Just dress up. You can't do that every day. Might as well.
And I know, just kind of looking at your site, you talk about how much out of traffic you get and, messages, but, you say you read all of them. I mean, since you've taken such kind of key roles, that's got to be pretty crazy dealing with it all.
It is. Sometimes I can't get to all that email all right at once because there are deadlines at work and there's other stuff going on, but I do read it all and I will respond to it all. It just takes a while, so everyone just has to be patient. But all the fans are really great, and I love hearing from them.
Do you feel like for voice actors or just maybe even actors in general that the web's kind of the place that they have to go to because, when they're not at a con, kind of represent all their activities?
Yeah, it is. We learn a lot as actors about the importance of self-promotion and networking. And even if you do have an agent, they can promote you to some degree, or if you have a manager or whatever, they do that too. But I think for voice acting and anime, a lot of it is up to us. I could just come whenever Funimation wants me to, or whenever a convention invites me, and do nothing else, sign things while I'm here, and go on with my life. But because I love anime so much, and I want to do something for the fans that I would want if I were them. So yeah, that's why I have the website, and here's a list of all the shows I've been in, and here's some pictures, and here's what I'm doing next. I'd love to meet you, and please write to me. I think it's a good thing, definitely a good thing, and it's a place, if kids start fan groups, and that's awesome. It's a way for them to meet other people who like the same things as them, and I think that's very important in a world like anime and sci-fi and fantasy. It goes a bit against the flow. It's not the societal norm, so to speak. I don't find it weird at all, but there are people out there who do, so I think it's important, especially for younger fans especially, to find people that like the same things as them and know that it's okay.
For yourself in the industry, kind of going from, a new person to now being, basically a veteran of voice acting, and, how's that kind of changed your perspective? Are you taking, people under your wing now, like maybe they did for you?
That's so funny. You're the first person to ask me that. I guess that has happened. That's amazing. In such a short period of time. But I think it's a natural progression. I wouldn't consider anybody else a veteran in anything after they'd only done it for 6 years. But the volume of work that all of us do in a year, we produce so much. And it's almost required of you when you're an early voice actor to get the hang of it and get it good, or you're not going to continue to work because it's such a time-based, deadline-based line of work. But yeah, now that you mention it, there are, I guess, a couple voice actresses, possibly voice actors that I cast them. They're new, cast them in this show that I'm working on, and it's really exciting to watch them once their voice has been heard and once they've received this role, and someone says, "Wow, I heard so and so in Caitlin's show, and they sound awesome," and to see them go and audition for other things, and more people around the building discovering them and putting trust in their ability. It's really. Wow, that's kind of very humbling. I don't want to get a power trip about it, look at this actress that I've
feel
created.
Free.
But that's really fun, because that was me once, and I just want to give other really talented people out there the opportunity to shine. So yeah.
Would you say then that's probably one of your favorite parts of directing? I mean, not only looking at the shows from a whole new light, but being able to kind of, it's like, no, Vic, you need to do that.
Vic does whatever he wants. He doesn't listen to me. That's not true. Yeah, it is nice to be able to mold and shape a show and teach, like, the really green, brand new actors and actresses the ropes. It's really fun because I think there are things that I learned later on in the process that I wish I'd learned very early on, and I see how that could be an asset to them. So, like, look, here's how you need to do it, and approach this in this way, and you'll be good. And yeah, it's definitely very rewarding.
And you were talking about fan reaction earlier. Since you are in this, kind of new position, more authority, more control over it, does it affect you that much more when you do get flack? Like somebody's like, that's not how it was originally done, or I want it done this way?
Yes. Yes, it does. And there's a part of me that wants to tell that fan, that's fine that that's how you think, but I'm the professional and I get paid, so be quiet. I try to reserve comments like that because they really only get you in trouble. But yes, it is very difficult. Because I guess from a fan's perspective, they do whatever they do all day, go to school or have this job or that job, and they're anticipating the release of such and such show, and they've already seen it on the internet in Japanese illegally, and they want to, now here they are watching the dub, and they have very high expectations, and that's always in my mind while I'm producing it, but ultimately I feel my responsibility is not to the fans primarily, but to the show itself, to the integrity of the show itself, and that's also what the fans want, because that is their biggest complaint. Well, it's not like the original, and that kind of hurts, because I'm like, but I'm trying my best. How would you do it? We're trying to produce things that, even if they don't make it on television, would be considered good TV. That's a good show. Not necessarily, that's a good, weird thing from Japan. Yeah, and it's hard to do. It's a fine line to walk. Because anime is odd, certainly, and there's some things that are so culturally obscure to us that they're just going to be very foreign no matter what you do. But I do try my hardest to tell the story the best way possible. That's what I try to do. If fans don't like it, I'm sorry.
Do you have a decision then specifically in like what shows to bring over, what shows you want to direct, or is that kind of another choice? You're sitting around a table and you're like, I want that one.
I don't have any control over what shows are licensed. It's possible if I had the time to be investigating what's on TV in Japan, that I could ask somebody, hey, do you know about this show? Is it supposed to be good? Do you think we're going to acquire it? But other than just voicing an opinion, I don't have any say-so in what gets licensed. As far as what I direct, I work for a line producer, and there are a few line producers, and all the shows we have are doled out to them. And then if they don't want to direct it themselves, they pass it along to one of the directors who work for them. So maybe my director says, hey, I have these 5 shows. Why don't you take a look at what they're all about? Let me know which ones you would most prefer to work on. But that still doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, because, like I mentioned, we work on deadlines. And maybe I'm directing something else, and this show that I really want to work on that hasn't started yet has to get started. But I'm already doing something. So one of my colleagues will get to work on it, and oh well. But we're not without an opinion, and we are allowed to say what we would like to do. But it doesn't always mean it's going to happen.
How do you kind of balance out? Like, do you just direct a show for a while and then voice the show for a while and then kind of go back and forth? Or does your schedule usually allow you to do both?
We can do both at once. Usually directing, it's about an 8-hour-a-day job, sometimes more, just depending on actors' schedules and when they can make it in. And some studios run in the daytime and some run at night. So if I'm directing all day, then when I get off from directing, I can go do some voice acting at night. So it can make for some very long days and busy weeks. If I happen to be in a show that I'm also directing, I'll just direct myself, so then I'm doing 2 things at once for real in the same show. But and voice work comes and goes. It's all on an audition basis. It's someone else's choice. So there are times where I'll be crazy busy working on a bunch of shows and directing a show. And then there can be times where I don't have any work. I'm not even directing because we're between things. We're waiting on scripts to be written. And I'm sitting at home wondering how I'm going to pay my rent. So It happens, unfortunately.
What was the hardest part about directing yourself for Oron?
The hardest part was gaining the confidence to play Haruhi. I really wanted to do it. I had to audition just like everyone else, and my line producer had to approve it. He wanted to hear the other auditions that were also that were in the running for the role. And then he wanted to hear my audition again. He gave me some notes that do it this way. So he had a great hand in crafting what the voice should sound like. And then because I'm the director, and then to also cast myself in the lead could be very questionable. And he would have to answer to anyone who would try to put down that decision. He asked me to go ahead and record the first episode still as an audition. I would get paid for my work, but he really needed me to honestly prove it. And so he could hear me with all the other actors around. And it wasn't until then that I knew that I was actually going to keep the part. So my first experiences of directing myself in that show, I didn't even know that the part was mine. So trying to focus enough and just think of it as if the part was mine and give it 100% and make her sound as best that I could, do my best job. And yeah, and then once I did know that I had it, it was still hard because I couldn't really believe it, and I was always afraid that I was going to lose the voice because it was new. It was something that I'd never done before, that type of voice. So it took me a while, but eventually I got the hang of it, and then it just became like second nature. And I couldn't wait to get in there, and now I love directing myself. It's so much fun. It's so easy.
Well, and yeah, that was one thing I was thinking that a lot of people would be wondering about, is because, unless we get to talk to you or listen to a whole lot of panels, we don't quite have the structure of how it all works at, the different studios. So it could be seeming like, you just picked yourself or something like that. So that's definitely enlightening. I had no idea, but that's very cool. And I think you all did a great job on that show. So, in fact, my Stephen Colbert question for you, Oron High School Host Club, great show or greatest show?
Wow. I'd say it's definitely the greatest show. I can't believe I even hesitated. It's the greatest show I've ever been a part of, ever worked on. One of my favorite shows that I've ever seen. I remember when I very first saw it thinking, I want to direct that show. Not, I want to be in it. The first thing I thought was, I want to direct that. I want to make that happen for an American audience, because it was immediately a challenge, but so, so funny. And it's wonderful to hear that people are loving it.
I'd definitely say, just based on the number of cosplayers alone, not to mention I'm sure how many people will be bringing you Oron stuff, as I will at the autograph table. So, yeah, that's got to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
One question, kind of going, I guess, back to just the internet and its usage, is obviously we've had studios shut down, reorganized, and so that's a big deal. And Funimation's definitely one of them on the forefront of using the online stuff. And how's it kind of feel knowing that while you have the show license, people are able to watch it subbed on the website, but you may also be directing that same show?
I'm cool with that. I'm fine with it. The way people, and not just anime fans, but consumers now, they're not used to buying things sight unseen. You can go to the store and buy the entire season of House, and you know that you want it because you've already seen it on television, and you like that show. That's why you're buying it. But anime isn't that way, and I think that people have gotten so used to being able to buy things they'd already seen that spending the amount of money that anime costs, because it costs a lot to bring it here and it costs a lot to produce it in English, a lot of people weren't willing to do that, to shell out the money for something that they'd never seen before. Maybe they had seen it because they watched illegal fan subs, but maybe they hadn't. And I think that what Funimation is doing is great. It's exactly what they should be doing. You have to keep up with the market and with consumers' expectations. They want to be able to see something before they buy it. So that's one way to do it, and I think it's a great thing. Maybe it produces a certain kind of expectation in the dub, and that expectation didn't exist before if they hadn't seen the show already. But I'm hoping that the majority of the time it just creates an excitement for the show to come out on the whole, and that they'll be excited just to own it. no matter, and we're always going to produce a good dub. That's the thing. We don't put out cruddy work. We just don't. If it were bad, it wouldn't get, authored onto the DVD. We don't let things like that happen. I know that that's probably my opinion, or it being bad is someone else's opinion, but I really think that Funimation is the best company out there. And they didn't pay me to say that either.
Well, and I'm sure that's easily one of the hardest parts is, just, at the end of the day, like you said earlier, are they going to like it? Are they not going to like it? And probably more on the side of, recent closings and stuff. Do you have an opinion on maybe, it's as difficult as the economy is and all that stuff. Do you have an opinion on what could be done to kind of improve the situation? Or do you think stuff like Funimation's web is part of that formula?
I definitely think that what Funimation has done with putting things on the internet legally is a step in the right direction, is what they are doing to combat the issues with, the economy and etc. I feel, so the economy's been bad for about a year and a half. Really bad, in recession or whatever you want to call it. But I've been going to cons through that whole time, and I've not seen some type of amazing drop in attendance or anything like that. So I don't know so much. Other people may argue that the industry is hurting, or we're about to close our doors. It's all just a lie. Funimation doesn't have any money. That's not true. How many people are here, and it's only Friday here at this convention? So I think that we're doing fine, because something else about a niche thing like anime and like sci-fi and fantasy is that a lot of the people who enjoy it, this is going to make everyone else in the world sound really dumb, but they're really smart people. A lot of them have very good jobs, and not the kind of jobs that have been lost due to the economy. So they still have the money to spend on the things that they like, which is, everything that's here this weekend. So we're all doing okay, but definitely putting things up on the internet and making things more accessible so that your consumer can be more knowledgeable is absolutely a step in the right direction. And that isn't to say that companies that haven't done as well would be doing better had they done that. Nobody could have foreseen, what happened to any of them or what's happening with the economy, really. Everyone's doing the best that they can, and I'm not an economist, but that's my humble opinion.
Well, just to kind of end on a more positive note, what are some of the shows that, you can obviously tell us about that are either being worked on or that you're releasing soon?
What can I talk about?
Slip-ups are fine.
I actually haven't been doing a terrible lot of voice acting lately. It's mostly been directing. Gunslinger Girl Season 2 just came out a few weeks ago. I directed that, and I played Triella. And so there's that. That's pretty exciting. Most people know I played Vivi in Funimation's dub of One Piece. And so I guess the second season, second voyage, whatever, when the arc with Vivi in it begins, I think that's on sale now, or will be very soon. There's a show called Kaze no Stigma, and I play a really strange, loud, weird girl, and that's out now. A lot of the newer things, I'm not in them, unfortunately.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is kind of sad, but it comes and goes. That's what this industry is about. You have high times and low times, and you just take it all with a grain of salt. It's fine.
Well, thank you very much for spending this time with me and giving us this interview, and I definitely hope you enjoy the rest of your convention.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I had a lot of fun.